Welcome to another episode of ThinkBox Radio, a podcast inspired by Sears ThinkBox, the innovation center at Case Western Reserve University. Our goal is to share some of the magic that happens at the Case School of Engineering and to inspire your own innovations and startups. ThinkBox Radio is produced by Abby Murphy and is sponsored by the Case Alumni Association. Now, let's meet our host, Robert Smith, the former economic development reporter for the Cleveland Plain Dealer.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of ThinkBox Radio, the podcast that asks, why didn't you do this in college? So we have a special show for you today. This is our Season 2 finale. 2 years, Abby and I, broadcasting coast to coast in half of Canada. And we have a special guest today. Franco Kraiselburd is a great example of the entrepreneurship culture here at Case. Franco, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Bob. Great to be here.
All right, I'm going to tell the folks a few things about you. You're a junior majoring in biomedical engineering.
Yeah.
You founded your own medical device company. You're looking to do cool things with stem cells.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about that. You're a guitarist and a songwriter who we'll see all over YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. You come to us from Buenos Aires, Argentina. So you speak 4 languages. Yep. And you're one of the few Case students at Mama Santa's in Little Italy. You order your pizza in Italian, I'll bet.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I thought so. Good. And you just finished the final exam.
Yeah, actually.
How did that go?
It went good. Finals are doing great. Better than usual.
Really? Nobody says that.
No.
Well, thanks for making time to join us here at ThinkBox. And I know you've been in here before. But let's start right off with your startup. Am I saying this right? Asclepi?
Asclepi, that's true. Yep.
Name for the Greek god of medicine.
Yep.
All right, so tell us what you're aiming to do with Asclepi.
Oh boy, so Asclepi is a multi-layered company at this point. The main goal is targeting diabetic foot ulcers in the United States. And
like a skin rash?
Yeah, so essentially what happens is when you have diabetes, you have around 50% less vasculature. So I can actually take a biopsy from a healthy patient and a diabetic patient and compare that. And there's a significant less vasculature, and that also there's nerve complications like nerve damage. So they don't feel their feet a lot of the time, and they don't have vasculature in their feet. And so what happens is that when they get a wound, their skin gets really dry, and then when they cracks, it opens a wound, and it becomes really hard to heal.
Nasty disease.
Yeah, and this has become a give or take a $127 billion problem in America. That mean cost to heal a wound is around $4,000. And so what we set out to do was, so I'm from South America. I spent some time at the University of São Paulo in high school doing research with this thing that used to be called mesenchymal stem cells, or we just call them MSCs nowadays.
But these are stem cells.
In vitro, so outside of the body, they are stem cells. They can be differentiated essentially into like a stem cell, indifferentiated, but in vivo, they're signaling cells.
Okay.
So nowadays, then it came to Case, and I joined this lab of Arnold Kaplan, who basically discovered these cells. And
he's a legend.
Yeah, he's the father of MSCs, which to me was like a dream. I worked in Brazil. I developed a prototype for something that I actually posted on LinkedIn. It was a very simple hydrogel.
In high school you did this?
In high school, in this lab. And I literally infringed my own patent possibility because I spoke about it and I shared it. And I went to all these different science fairs.
You're a kid.
I'm a kid. I made a very a childish mistake. It was fine. I mean, it was probably not going to be patentable anyway. But then I was already really passionate about this problem. And I already had connections to a lab in Brazil. And I had...
Do you know somebody who is a diabetic?
Yeah, I know plenty of people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and a lot of the work that I did in the lab was actually shadowing nurses, helping them like clean and debride wounds.
Okay, so you got more and more into it.
Healthcare system. Yeah, so I got more into it. Come to Case, and I'm like, well, I mean, I'm a U.S. institution now. I'm a U.S. citizen. I just joined the lab of the father of MSCs, and I wanted to create an MSC prototype. So I go up to him and I say that I wanted to do a skin healing product. And he tells me, I do cancer research. Yeah. So he's like, you either go and do cancer research and you learn about MSCs in a different context, or you go find someone who will mentor you. And I'm like, no, I'll stay. I'll stick around. So I stuck around. I've been here for 3 years. And
you want to stay with that guy?
Yeah, I want to stay with him. And I did. And then what I realized truly was that, and the reason I started the company was that the need was there. And most importantly, the team, right? The network was there, right? Well, I had to build a team, but the network was there, right? I had a whole access to an alumni network of Krais alums, right? And people who, Krais entrepreneurs even. The first ever talk I went to was Felipe Gomez del Campo, who literally told me.
He's at MIT now.
Yeah, he's a visiting scientist at MIT. He told me, yeah, I did something in high school too, and then I went to Krais and I empowered it, and now I made a company at MIT.
That's right. He did start.
That was my first year. My first ever talk. He reinvented jet fuel.
Yeah.
Basically.
He added something to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then I come here and I'm like, all right, there's this whole network. I later came to learn about all the other resources available. And then I formed a company and then started. The ultimate goal of this company is to empower Latin American research into U.S. market and Europe. Big
goals here.
But the way we're doing it right now is through diabetic foot care, basically.
Okay, so where do things stand?
So we just did our interview with the National Science Foundation earlier this week for the National I-Core program, which is essentially it's a small grant for you to do this thing called customer discovery. So we're receiving some funding. We're doing non-dilutive funding, so a couple of grants here and there in different countries. We're actually partnered with institutions in over 6 different countries, including the Tecnológico Monterrey Institute in Brazil, in Mexico, sorry, and then the University of São Paulo in Brazil.
Yeah.
So we have partnerships, we have research ideas, we have doctors in our advisory board, we're receiving funding, so we're going full steam ahead.
Asclepi, remember that name, folks. Yeah. So not to get too deep into the weeds here, but what did you figure out you can do with the stem cells that would be a cure for this problem?
So you're healing wounds here, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's a very crowded space when it comes to companies in wound healing. There's been innovations that have disrupted the market since like 1970, 1980, 1990. So really what I'm trying to do is lower cost.
But they haven't figured this out.
No. So they have. I mean, a lot of them have. The real value is the lower cost element.
Okay.
Is that we're able to do a lot of the things that, the gold standard does at a fraction of the price, less than 75% of the price. So it's really just low cost.
Okay.
We're not reinventing rocket fuel here, at least not yet. It's really just a low cost prototype that can be done on site by physicians.
Okay.
And that's really valuable.
That's great. So right now you're trying to get funding, and does it look good? Does it look promising?
Yeah. We're very, very excited.
Okay.
Very excited in the funding realm, for sure.
All right, cool. So tell us, Franco, what are maybe some of the resources here at Krais that have helped you, as you're trying to foster a startup?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I think a lot of people ask me, because I always complain about exams and academia, and I'm like, these courses. And so they ask me, why are you getting a degree here? Like, what value do you see in the degree? And I think that, especially in entrepreneurship, you have to think differently. So you have to think outside of the box. And if you're going to start thinking differently, thinking outside of the box, then you're going to have to measure yourself in ways that aren't always traditional. So the value I see at Krais, and the value I see in the Krais degree, and the secret kind of key to all of this is truly that when you come here, you instantly become a Krais student. You instantly become a Krais alum. And more importantly, you instantly have access to so much information, people, resources, right? So the first thing I ever did, I went to the KSL A to Z databases. KSL, you go on the KSL.
That's the library, right?
The Kelvin Smith Library website. And you actually have access to all these market forecasting resources for free because you're a student.
Oh, right.
And that's like $10,000 right there.
Yeah,
that's like
cool.
Right off the bat. The second you have a case ID. So I went there and I started looking at diabetic foot ulcer market estimates. Oh, okay, there's a nice growing market. You see that there's a market. You see what the market drivers are. And then second thing I did, started getting involved in the entrepreneurship world here at Krais. I dropped over to the VO Institute and I said, hey, so I have an idea. I wanted to build a network. I wanted to make a startup. They said, oh, have you tried launching
The Veal Institute up on the 6th floor of ThinkBox.
Seventh
7th
floor. Veal Institute. Well, there's 6th and 7th, but yeah. I went over to the Veal Institute on the 7th floor and I asked them, I want to create a company. They said, okay, you have a ThinkBox student mail membership. You can put your mailing address here as a company, which means that you have a suite number, so it looks very professional.
Yes.
You can get a micro grant from LaunchNet over the Burton D. Morgan Foundation LaunchNet crew. You get $1,000 to spend, just free spending money, as long as you have a receipt, you can spend it. And then you can take entrepreneurship classes, and once you start meeting the people, like Michael Goldberg, for example, he was kind of one of the biggest elements on this whole. He was kind of the guy who started it all for me. He said, why don't you apply to be a Veal Snyder Fellow?
Tell them who Michael Goldberg is.
Michael Goldberg, the executive director of the Veal Institute for Entrepreneurship. I met him. I don't even know how I met him, but I just ran into him at a lunch. I said, hey, I'm interested in being a Veal Snyder Fellow. What is this program about? And he said, well, tell me a little bit more about yourself. I told him, well, I'm a student. I'm interested in doing a company. The student title is wonderful. Being a student is just great.
Sure.
Really,
you can ask anyone anything.
Yeah, no, you really can. You can get through the door at all these big people, and there's like,
I know it. I tell students, tell them right away you're a student. They'll talk to you.
Yeah, and that's really what I've seen. Even if you put CEO, no one cares. Like you put the CEO title on your LinkedIn, and you start getting all this random junk mail. You put student, and it's like free access. It's all the benefits with none of the bad portions of it. You get all the anyway. So Michael Goldberg, I spoke to him about the Veal Snyder Fellowship. Yeah. He said, oh, it's cool. You get to take a couple entrepreneurship courses. You go to Barcelona, you go to San Francisco, and you go to Vegas.
That's right.
It's like he had me at Barcelona.
Yeah. I think that was new this year, but yeah, he does take his students around.
Yeah. So I saw it on LinkedIn last year. They sent a couple students off to San Francisco, and the first thing I felt was, missing out. I thought I was missing out on something. So I went to speak to him. Told me about the Veal Snyder Fellowship. I became the inaugural cohort of the Veal Snyder Fellows.
Oh, you were in the first one. Oh,
I was
good
the
for
first
you.
one. Yeah.
That was taught by Ram Fish.
Ram Fish and Michael Hill, Stacy Mans, and Mindy Bile.
Those are some big entrepreneurs. So Ram, I think he didn't. You might be too young to know this, but I think he developed the iPod for Apple.
Yep. And then he started his own digital health company, essentially.
Yes.
Which is great. He's turned Central and Latin America. I love it. I love his stuff. He offered me a job.
He's a genius, and his claim to fame here is he like took more credit hours than any other student in a single semester in case history.
Yeah.
He didn't have enough money, so he just took everything all at once, and he'll tell you about it.
Oh yeah, no, that was one of the things we spoke about in the course. Ram is just a different kind of thinker. He's crazy.
So that's right. So he helped lead the course. So as a fellow, you had this class. You had these entrepreneurship trips.
Yes.
So tell us about Barcelona. Why did you guys go there?
So it's all part of a big 1-year scheme that you kind of only realize at the end. So you start out, and before Barcelona, actually, you start out with another course, which is the semester before. Barcelona is spring semester. So fall semester, you take a course with RAM. Actually, the RAM portion of the course is not even Barcelona. It's San Francisco and CES in Vegas.
Oh, Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas.
Yeah. The biggest trade show in the world. And so you go there, you go into lectures and you learn about from the perspective of an entrepreneur, right? Like Ram Fish, you learn about really what it takes to be an entrepreneur and kind of like you get to, there's a lot of reading material involved with reading
up at,
for example, the value proposition matrix or the startup journey by Jerry Kaplan, who did the first pen notebook. And that's really interesting because you start learning and start seeing different stories of success and failure. In fact, the whole book about the pen notebook, which I thought was genius because it's the guy who literally made the tablet that I study on nowadays. He didn't even make that much money out of it. He was actually the guy who basically paved it, and he didn't become a millionaire out of that.
Wow, that's too bad.
So you learn about entrepreneurship, then you start being taken to these different places, different locations like Vegas, like San Francisco, and you start going to the heart of it all. You go to Amazon. We went to AWS, Amazon Web Services. We went to Goodyear. Jose Diaz Salazar graduated Case Mechie, worked in Goodyear here in Ohio, and then realized that there's a huge venture capital side of Goodyear that we're missing out on, that the company was missing out on. So he started it.
Did he?
Out of Case. So he left Case and he literally now leads Goodyear's entrepreneurship. So what I'm getting to is it's a course that you learn, you read, you discuss, you expand with your network. And then by the time you get to Barcelona, you know, you've been there for almost a whole year. So you have a team of people that you know and trust and that you've worked with. You have an expansive network. We went to Barcelona with Michael Hill, who's a super dedicated alum.
And he was like vice president of innovation for Medtronic?
Yes. He spent 26 years in Medtronic.
Okay.
He basically, there's a point he ran the company.
Yeah.
And he's the nicest guy ever going to meet.
He's a superstar.
Him and his husband, they're both just great. And truly, so at the time we got to Barcelona, really the value, and I'm pretty sure next year is going to be a different place, but the value is that we went to see entrepreneurs in action in Barcelona, but this time they're like real startups, right? Like, so when you go to San Francisco, you're seeing Amazon, right? Which is a successful story, right? You're seeing Goodyear maybe, which is also like more successful. It's a bigger company, and that's more intrapreneurship, I guess. I mean, Amazon started from an entrepreneurial activity, but then once you're innovating within a company, it becomes like internal preneurship, I guess. But then we actually went to Barcelona and we started meeting, not only it's a huge difference in culture, but you start meeting people who are starting a whole new initiative. You start hearing all these pitches that, I mean, I swear to you that every single one of these pitches is super compelling, right? Because you hear it and it's someone who's clearly seasoned.
Are they like startups here? Are they like, is it like MedTech? And
we met a little bit of MedTech, which was really cool. We also met another one called BioHour. So biotech, there was this one called LM Biotech, which simulates, they use supercomputers to essentially simulate the body and the heart as good as, for example, aerospace. So their whole pitch in one line is aerospace is 20 years ahead of medical technology, like modeling, right? Like you can look at an airplane model super easily.
Yeah.
And then you look at a heart and it's terrible. It looks like a little drawing of a little kid, right?
Right. The doc has to tell you that's a heart.
Yeah. And so they were so mad. They were like, we wanted to create a really realistic model using supercomputers. And so that's what they did. That's what they're doing. And then,
cool.
But the other one is like a hotel called BioHours that you get to pay for a specific amount of hours in a hotel. You don't have to pay for the whole night.
Okay.
You check in at 3 and you leave at 5, and then you pay for that.
Okay, that's interesting.
So looking at entrepreneurs, like small companies in the context of everything we learned as a fellowship, really was a transformative experience for us. That was amazing. So
you got a lot out of that program, and you've also you mentioned LaunchNet. We're here in ThinkBox. You've done a good job tapping the resources here.
That's important. That's the best skill I could have learned here at Case. And that's thanks to ThinkBox too. I mean, Bob Sobko, Britton Elswig, Stacy Manns, like even Tiffany McNamara, she was huge mentor. Actually, Tiffany was the one for me who started it all. Because before I got into starting a company, or even the Veal Snyder Fellowship, or any of the stuff that even like you see nowadays, right? Like that I've been getting into, it really started with a frustration and a need in the BME curriculum, in the biomedical engineering curriculum. So true story, actually, I was at a party with a couple of my biomedical engineering friends. And I was telling them how it was annoying that, we're engineers, but we didn't get to, like Mekki's got to make hammers, right?
Yeah.
And like in EMA 160 with Jason Bradshaw, they get to do a hammer, these SolidWorks it, and then they do it. And that's really cool. But I don't get to do like a heart valve or something of the sort, right? Like I don't get to create a biomaterial unless it's through my lab. I was like, I wanted to get more experiential learning earlier in the BME career. Because so if you ask like Dr. Colin Drummond, for example, who's a BME professor here, he's great. He's one of my mentors. He says, well, the reason for that is that you start out Case, and because you can freely move the first 2 years, you can do anything you want. The actual BME happens in the last 2 years, right? So the actual engineering part of biomedical engineering is in the last 2 years, but we wanted earlier experience.
Sure.
So that's why we founded the Medical Technology Group, which is a club aimed for you to go and partner with local institutions such as the United Cerebral Palsy Center for Greater Cleveland and say, hey, you guys have design challenges. We have engineering students. We want to learn by doing it.
All right. We're going to get to that group, but before we do, I'm curious. So, what drew you to college in Cleveland? Why'd you come to Case from Buenos Aires?
Oh, that's a great question. I was in med school there. Med school there is open and free for everyone, so you can just join in. It's great. And I liked it, but I felt that I had taken the SAT and I liked my score. I thought I had a good chance, and I wanted to do something more impactful. I think that, and I didn't like the whole traditional go to 8 years of medical school, then do a residency, so I just wanted to go somewhere in the United States where I felt like I could at least get connected to a different perspective, a different world. And I had a great family friend. Remember actually the Goodyear guy?
Yes.
So that same guy was advised by the same guy who told me to go to Case. And he told both of us to go to Case, and we both ended up going to Case.
That guy's influential.
Yeah, his name's Hector Martinez. He was like, dude, you should go to Case. It's a great place. You know, it's really for driven students who kind of want to go outside of the box and do something that's out there.
Yeah.
So that really drove me. The fact that I could come to a university and
I do find the students here driven. I'm like, oh my God.
But not just that, they're driven in ways that aren't traditional. And the people that you see here are not traditional. And I think that's one of the most amazing things. Like you see the cleaner guys upstairs. I don't know if you've spoken to them.
Yeah, so Cleaner's a startup. They're developing a filter for a washing machine to filter out microplastics. And we did a podcast on them a couple shows ago. Oh yeah, fascinating students.
And you see, but those are undergrad
Mechis. I know it.
At Case,
working around the clock.
Right? Yeah, but no, and they literally that's the kind of student, in my opinion, that's the real value. That's the real kind of student that Case produces, and that's kind of when I heard about. Actually, I read about Felipe before I even came, and that's what drew me. I was like, you know what? I want to be that one kid who did something in high school, who was really passionate about a problem, and who created a startup out of their experiences at university. So I came here. I'd never heard of Cleveland other than the Cavs.
Okay, LeBron does give us that. Yeah.
And
all right. Well, and you've liked Case, and you probably find. I mean, there's a lot of international students here, but there's probably not too many from Argentina.
No.
I'm imagining.
Not in undergrad, anyway.
Okay. So, what are your impressions of Cleveland? How have you liked the city? What have you discovered here? I
think I love the city. I love Cleveland. I actually do. I'm one of the few people. I feel like when people come here and they like to joke, they like to say, "Oh, I don't like it. It's too cold," and it is cold. But that is something coming from South America was a big shock. Like the first winter, I was like, "Well, I don't have boots," but I had a lot of wet socks. But I think Cleveland is a really nice city. I mean, the West Side Market. You just have all this holistic kind of picture of a city. You have nature, you have like entrepreneurship, like technology, great with parks, Case. Yeah. You have great parks. You have great.
The West Side Markets. That's a big public market, one of the last of its kind in America. That's an amazing place to shop.
It is, and not just that. Then you go to very cute traditional coffee shops. The coffee culture here is amazing, and you go to, for example, like the cafe/restaurant culture has been really like with Lucky's Cafe and Tremont. I think Tremont's a great place to hang out.
You get over to Tremont, okay.
Well, I got a car here actually.
Okay.
So I got a stimulus check. I was like, I guess I gotta stimulate the economy.
Yes, very good.
So I love Cleveland. I think it's great. I think the most important thing for me was finding my community here within Case and within Cleveland I'm a Latino. That's how I identify with, which is something that when you're in Latin America, I see myself as Argentine. I don't see myself as Latino, right?
Right.
When you come to the U.S., you really have to start, finding people that you get along with and that you identify with and you have shared experiences with, and that's the Latino community for me, which here is great, super supportive. Amazing.
Yeah, I see that you're a member of the Society of Hispanic Engineers.
Yes.
Yep. And also La Alianza.
Yes.
Which is kind of a broader Hispanic group.
Yeah, it's a broader Hispanic group. It's for all.
All right, awesome. Yeah, maybe you're their only Argentina. I don't know.
Yeah. There are a couple ones, but I'm the only one from the mainland Argentina.
Okay. All right. Good. So you're also a musician, as I mentioned, and you got a lot up on YouTube. You write your own songs. You're a guitarist.
I do.
So I'm wondering, is music just a hobby, or do you think it makes you a better scientist and an entrepreneur?
I think that when you have a lot of ambitions, you need something to distract you. Even if it's not a distraction, but even if it's a project-based something, you need something to do in the off hours, I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. And music to me, it definitely makes me a better scientist and definitely makes me a better entrepreneur because it gives me comfort in an identity and in I mean, if you think about it, I'm a 21-year-old CEO.
Yeah.
Right? Like I am really, really, really young to be trying to get involved in the places that I'm trying to get involved in. And
yes,
I get said no all the time.
Sure.
All the time. And that's fine. Like it's, it's the
Yeah.
world. Like some people are going to roll with it and some are not. And so in music, at least, what's nice is that there's very little of that kind of like no. In music, it's all of music is a yes, right? So I guess like it makes me better because at least like I have another side that I can explore and like I can be myself in and express my most inner feelings without kind of that rejection. If that makes any sense.
That's a great thought. Professor Dustin Tyler in biomedical engineering.
He's my professor right now.
Is he really? Okay. And yeah, I mean, I saw he was on 60 Minutes about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's doing great stuff with prosthetics. But I was telling him, I expressed some concern. My kid joined a club baseball team. I go, does he have time for this? He goes, he needs this.
Yeah.
He said, I played French horn. That was my release. He said, if you're going to be an engineer, you need that release.
Yeah.
Something that just takes your creative attention. So what kind of music do you like to create?
So it's alternative rock music.
Yes.
It's not really hard rock. It's little soft on the softer end.
Yeah.
But it's very how can I say? It's very lyric heavy and based on my personal experiences as a young, teenager or young person.
Okay.
Going throughout the world. I mean, I've lived in like 5 different countries.
Is that right?
Which has a lot of great perspectives, but also a lot of deep frustrations. Of like, not like you ask me where I'm from, and I say Argentina because it's the easiest, but it's just not an easy answer. So that's why I actually have music in 3 of the 4 languages that I speak, and the people from back home or other different countries, they all listen to it. So it's a great way to connect. So I love the music. I think I started doing rap and now it's more alt rock. So I don't know.
Okay.
But
no, that's okay. And what should people look for? Like, do you have a musical name, or are they just looking for Franco Kraiselburd?
It's just Franco Krais, actually. You take out the L bird part, you just put Franco Krais.
Well, I like that. All right.
Sure.
That'll work. Franco Krais on Apple Play.
On all Spotify, Apple Play, like all those
awesome
those platforms.
Do you have a band?
I do. I started a band this year, actually, called the Space Cadets.
I didn't know that.
And it's funny because you mentioned that music was like a different dimension.
Yeah.
And that's actually literally the name of my band. Like the whole point of Space Cadets was that we felt that when we were making music, we were like traveling through space, like a different dimension.
Cool.
So that's kind of how the Space Cadets name came to be.
Are they Case students?
They're all Case students. They're all Case CS, except for our bassist, who is a cognitive science.
Okay, there's always one. That's all right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring you back to campus. So you mentioned the medical technology group at CWRU, and I didn't realize that was new and that you and some of your classmates started it.
Yeah.
And you were telling us about the need for it.
Yeah. So all of my whole life, my whole entrepreneurial life, all of this started because of that medical technology group. And the reason for it was because the medical technology group was founded specifically for Case students, Case BME students, but any student, honestly, right? Any student, especially engineering students, who wanted to have more experiential learning earlier in their career as opposed to later. And we started that, and the first thing we did was go over to ThinkBox, 6th floor, and we pitched to Tiffany McNamara and Jason Bradshaw.
Okay, yeah.
We said
2 of the big leaders here.
Yeah, they're both the forward thinkers of this place, and I said, I have this idea that I partnered up with Liam Matthews and Juan P. Garcia. They're one of Liam's in Michigan. Juan P. just got into Harvard, MIT. So they're both doing PhDs. And I'm kind of like the third guy right after them. I'm like, well, I guess I have a company or anything. But no, and they went up with me and we pitched. We just did a pitch.
Okay.
And they said, all right, we like this idea. Let's start connecting you to the resources to make it happen. And once I learned that, because that was how I learned about all the Case resources. And once I learned those, it was just like a straight tunnel of loops and things. And I just went into this rabbit hole of entrepreneurship innovation, which was great. But it was thanks to the medical technology group that it all started, I guess.
And so you guys, you approach like nonprofit groups that are trying to help people or solve problems, and you try to engineer solutions for them. Is that right?
Yeah. In the past, we actually helped this Argentine guy. Couldn't believe he was Argentine, coding a virtual mandibular reconstruction surgery planner. We actually got crew students, random like undergrad students, to virtually plan a mandibular reconstruction surgery with fibula free flaps. It was insane.
What kind of surgery is that?
Mandibular, so when a jaw gets broken, so you reconstruct it by the fibula free flap version of the surgery is that you remove part of your leg bone, like your fibula, and then you just build it into a jaw. And then that was for mandibular reconstruction. And then right now we're actually working on assistive technology for motor impaired kids.
Cool.
So we're helping them paint coasters.
Are you? Yes.
Super cool. Yeah.
All right.
So I know it's a lot. I know I painted a lot, but I think it's a great show. I think I'm a great example, at least, of not someone who's outwardly successful necessarily, but someone most definitely who saw a very complex web of resources here at Case and tried to build it and unify them. Because I think that the people after me, the people that will come after me, I've been standing in the shoulders of giants and everything I've done, but the people who come after me will be able to empower all the framework that we're building now into really creating who God knows what impact. I think that the generations that will come for Case students in the future are going to be truly disruptive, in my opinion.
That is cool. That is a good thought. I think we're going to finish on that. I think this young man is going to leave us a legacy. And so that is going to end another episode of ThinkBox Radio here at Case Western Reserve University, where our motto is Think Beyond the Possible.
And that concludes another episode of ThinkBox Radio, stories inspired by America's leading college innovation center. Thanks for listening. You can find past episodes on our website, casealumni.org. Goodbye from Case Western Reserve University, where our motto is Think Beyond the Possible.